Okay, so ready to go. So, excuse me. Okay, so we've done the introductions. I'd just like to thank Kate and Robin for coming to the CFA and sharing their wisdom and telling us, making sure that Adam and all of you are going to be safe in the event, well, as one can be, in potential bushfires and also within the house and what we might need to do along the way. All right, so over to you, Kate, if that's all right. Thank you very much for coming and putting in your time.
Thanks, Liz. Thanks, Liz, and thanks, Peter, for inviting me to be here. So I'm Kate. I'm a Community Liaison Engagement Bushfire Educator. So my role here today will be to talk to you about preparation, planning and survival. So I'm going to take you through the fundamentals of bushfire survival, and the plans that you can make along that you can then apply to Adam. So it'll be more informed decision making because you'll understand a little bit more about it. So Robin is actually a firefighter, of which I'm not. So she'll be able to add different elements to what we're going to talk about and talk about more about the fuels that are in your area. So we don't talk about trees and shrubs and all of that as trees and shrubs. We actually call them fuel. So that's the fundamentals of today. So who can tell me what fire? What is fire?
Burning.
To make something fire. Where does it come from?
Oxygen.
What's the third? There's three things.
Like the water.
Heat or spark?
Heat.
Yeah.
Exactly. Spot on. So fire needs three things. It needs oxygen or air, heat and fuel. And when you get that combination of those three, we have fire. The thing is, to take one of those away at each time is what our firefighters do. So they might add water. So what would adding water do? It would cool down one of the elements by taking away the heat. Or they'll put dirt on it. So what does that do?
Takes the oxygen away.
Takes the oxygen away. So it's all about removing one of those three elements to suppress fire. So what is a bushfire as such?
Bushes on fire.
An outside fire.
Yeah. So a bushfire often has all three of those elements. And for the CFA and firefighters, it's not so much about putting that fire out, but it's about controlling the fire, preventing it from burning. So what I'm going to talk to you today about is the three things, or all the things that you need to do to make informed decisions to best support Adam and best support yourself to survive a bushfire. Just looking at where you are now, what is your biggest risk?
There's only one road out of here.
Yeah, so that's a risk.
And there's a lot of fuel with tea tree and...
Yeah. What are your other risks?
Summer. We're in the fire season at the moment.
Yeah. So Victoria is a risk, isn't it? Yeah, it's the most fire-prone place in the world. Yeah. So when you're thinking about your risks, there's often a little acronym that we can use, and it's called HILI, and it's the Home Ignition Likelihood Indicator. So if you were to have a look, walk around your house, and walk around your area that you live in, or walk around the roads, and you think to yourself, what are my ignition points? Where would a fire ignite around me? And what can I do to remove or dampen down those ignition points? So what do you think using that in mind, what do you think your risks here are?
Maybe veranda, with the boards not being quite uptight so you could get stuck down in between.
Yeah. What would other risks be?
Leaf
Grass,
litter.
dry grass and dry everything.
Yeah. So you're guttering, massive trees, all the foliage that's quite close. You're going to hate me when you're not finished with your house. You've got timber edging around there. You've got timber on your
Outside deck bit there.
yeah, outside decking. You've got timber windows.
Timber house.
Yeah, timber house. Yeah. So what do you think your chances of survival would be here? So we've got two types of fire. We've got a fire front and we've got spotting. What are your chances of survival?
Pretty low.
Yeah, it's going to say
30%.
Anyone's going to change that 30% to end down?
Sit down, Professor. We're not leaving yet.
Depending on how much warning you get, you know, how much lead time, you know, the more lead time increases your chances of survival. So,
Yeah. Yeah. So your chance of survival here is 100% if you leave early.
Yeah. My 30% was if you didn't do anything and you were just
Yeah,
here.
yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah. So 100% survive if you leave early. If you don't leave early, we're going to take that down to the 30% that if you're staying here and there's a fire that's in there. So the fact is, no one can survive a fire front. Our houses aren't built for it, our bodies aren't built for it, and we're not going to have any air, so our lungs aren't built for it either. But we can survive spotting. So it's about preparing your home for bushfire spotting. But in a house such as this that's got lots of kind of risks around it, your best chance of survival is leaving early. So part of that is to think about in Adam's plan about triggers for leaving early. So who's familiar or knows what this is?
It's an indicator of the fire rating for the day.
Yeah.
Fire, risk or
Yeah. Who knows what the rating is today for Venus Bay?
I didn't look at it coming in.
I think it's severe, isn't it?
Today?
Yeah.
I think probably very high.
I'd say very high.
Who's got their phones and or some kind of mechanism and can quickly tell me? Because I know what it is.
Because
The
I
last time I
did
saw
it.
that was severe.
It was on severe, then it went down to very high.
Okay.
So tell me what you're going to do in order to find out what the rating is today.
On the CFA website.
Yeah, you look up on the CFA website. What else could you
Pay attention to
do?
the sign when I go into Venus.
Yes.
You
We
can
look
look
at
at
it, we keep it up to date.
Yeah.
fire danger today.
High fire danger today. Yep, muffin basket for you.
Yes.
Today is a high fire danger. How did you find that out?
The big emergency.
Vic Emergency app.
Yes.
That is your best app to use. CFA app, yep, that's great. CFA is working off with images from that Vic Emergency app. If you don't have it, I'll help you download it onto your smart devices today. And I can run you through how to use it. Yeah. So, we know that we can use Vic Emergency app, that we can look at the FDR board, the fire danger rating board, when you come into Venus Bay. How else would you know what your fire danger rating is?
Radio.
Radio?
Listening to your local radio, ABC.
Yeah, yeah,
They're
yeah.
very good with that sort of stuff.
Why do we need to know that? What does this mean? When you see very high, what does that mean?
Means be aware.
Does it? What does a fire danger rating mean?
I think there's a very high chance of there being a bushfire.
No barbecue.
It's being,
Well, the conditions are becoming dangerous, you know, with weather.
It'd be the likelihood of a fire, wouldn't it?
Nearly. And there's a good reason why you actually need to know and understand and apply the definition for when you're looking at what does FDR mean. So the fire danger rating means if a fire was to start today, the damage it would cause. So it would be low to moderate. It would mean that the conditions are quite cool, the fuels are okay, won't be too windy, so and so. And Robin and her team, if they get a call, there's a fire up the road, the likelihood is that they can put it out or get it under control quite swiftly. If it's high, which it is today, it means the damage the fire would cause if one were to start today, it would be a fair amount of damage. The ability to be able to control it by the fire brigade today, because we've got a bit of wind out there, we've got a lot of fuels on the ground, the heat's suppressed a bit, so we can have it on high. Very high. What's the likelihood of a brigade to be able to put out a fire if one were to start on a very high fire, don't you, Jay?
Real good.
Not real good. So that's how you need to have it in your mind when you're making a decision, when you see an FDR rating of a very high, should I be in this area today? Or should I be somewhere else? Because if a fire were to start, I guarantee you it's going to be very difficult to go. Severe, don't be here. That means that the damage that that fire causes is going to be severe. Put your hand up if you think you're going to get a fire truck up the driveway. If a fire were to start on a very high fire that day. Put your hand up if you think you'll get Venus Bay or Tarwin Lower fire truck up the driveway.
No.
Good answer. How many fire trucks are there in Venice Bay?
5, 6, 1.
One.
Ready, stop it.
Really?
Really?
That
So
they
we've
come
got
for
3
everywhere.
altogether, 1 at Tarwin Lower and 1 at Walkie. So I've got 3 trucks.
Yeah.
And then spread out.
Yeah.
This is a very spread out area for us.
So how many houses are there in Venus Bay? Yeah. So you have 1 fire truck. In fact, you have 1 tanker. When they squirt their water, that's it. They'll have to run back and get some more. So don't think you're going to get a fire truck up your driveway. So part of this is understanding that you need to be resilient and not reliant, because they are not going to be here. They will be out protecting assets. What are the assets here in Venus Bay that you'll be protecting?
Life.
Yourself.
Yeah, life, primary.
Adam us
Yeah.
like it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
life first and then
That's right.
property after that.
Yeah. So that's something that you need to be mindful about again when you're making the decisions. So I understand in Adam's plan that there's a leave early. So what does that mean, leave early? Leave early here or leave early here? So collectively, it's the end of this, it's having to think about decision making about leave early. What's your trigger so that everybody's on the same page about leaving early? So who understands our notifications that we receive? What are the notifications that we receive? The warning that you might hear. What are they?
These are the messages you get on your phones.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Has everyone heard an advice message?
Yes, on
Yeah.
radio.
What does advice mean?
It's advising you whether to stay or go, basically. Whether you stay to defend your property or whether you should leave immediately. No?
Has anyone else got a different?
What was that? Yeah, I got it.
What's an advice message?
Well, it's a recommendation that they would give, so saying for in their opinion and for your safety, they are recommending that you do blah. Not
So-
saying you have to, but
Essentially, an advice message is issued if there's a fire in your area. It's giving you a heads up. Just letting you know there's a fire in your area. You might want to then have a look at what your FDR rating is for today. Oh, there's a fire in my area. If one starts, its danger rating would be this high. Highly likely Robin and the team might be able to pounce on it pretty quickly, saturate it, that kind of stuff. You'll be alright. If you've got an advice message and it's a severe day, you might think differently. You might say, let's get in the car and let's go into town for the day. What about watch and act? What if you were to receive an advice message, there's a fire in your area? Oh, advice message, I'm going to keep my ears and eyes on the ABC radio. I might turn the TV off so I can hear what's going around. I might hear some sirens. I might look at my app that kind of stuff. I might check that, you know, we've got water supplies, the cat's already in a basket, because I don't like putting a cat in a basket in an emergency. They're the things I might do.
Sorry, Kate, just wanted to say, it would be unlikely that you'd hear sirens here. We're not supposed to sound the sirens because it upsets the cattle and at the farm.
Oh, okay, even the
So,
truck.
Yeah, we never put our siren on.
Well, there you go.
Yeah. I know it might be a really extreme thing, but as a general rule, you probably would not hear our siren.
Yep, yep. So if you were to receive a watch and act after your advice message, what would that then mean for you?
To stay tuned and continue to stay focused on receiving the messages, or
I think I'd leave.
An
If
area
I was
shooting,
here at work, I think I'd leave.
I'd be going to have a look and see if I can smell smoke.
it's only assuming that most people would have a plan, and then depending on the warning that they're giving, then they would look at the plan.
put your plan in place.
Yeah. 'Cause
But
then-
some people's plan might be to put that in place as an advice message. So what does watch and act mean? Why are they issuing a watch and act?
In case it increases in severity.
Well, there's,
Fire.
it's underway.
Yes,
You need to
you've got
be-
an advice message, there's a fire in your area,
Get
next
on,
you've
get
received
ready.
a watch and act.
Yep. So you got to basically make hay. You got to load the car, get prepped, ready to leave if the advice is to leave.
No, advice message doesn't tell you what to do.
I'll be listening
Yeah.
to the ABC, listening to what's going on, so that
Yeah.
is one thing I put on immediately.
For your advice message?
Yes, the
Yes.
advice message, because that's usually up to date, and it would have to be a local radio,
Yes.
not just
Yeah.
a commercial channel.
Yep.
So local ABC usually pick that up, and if there's a fire imminent in this area, they would actually, they're pretty quick at putting warnings out saying, okay,
Yeah, yeah.
you
So
have to
what
leave.
would you do if you received a watch and act? What does a watch and act message mean?
To prepare and be aware.
That's advice. Yep. Watch and act. What does a watch and act warning mean for you or for anyone to receive it?
You got to know where the fire is and go.
So a watch and act message actually means you're in the path of a fire and you will be impacted. That's what it means. Watch and act. The fire is in your area and you're in its path. So it means that it's approaching you, conditions are changing, and you need to take action now to protect your life. So you haven't already left on your advice message. If I got an advice message on a severe day, our fire plan at home is to leave. So I wouldn't even get a watch and act message because I wouldn't be there, because our house is like a tissue, probably even more fire risky than this place. But if you got a watch and act message on a very high day, what's the chances of the local brigade being able to control and manage or extinguish that fire?
Pretty low.
Yeah. So watch and act means that you are in the path of a fire. What about emergency warning? What does that mean? What do you think the definition or the rationale behind sending out that message is?
To be prepared to leave.
Advice message. What does emergency warning mean?
It's on you.
It's beyond that, so they're no longer just giving advice. It's the situation is now so much worse
Yep.
that
Yep.
the emergency message would be saying this is the situation, and I'm assuming they'd be saying leave. If you haven't already, we are now saying you need to be leaving.
Yeah. Often emergency warning is it's too late
Right,
to
yeah.
leave. You're going to put yourself more at risk if you were to leave now. If you haven't already left it, you'll watch and act. So act means to actually apply something. So emergency warning would be it's probably too late to leave and you need to enact your home fire, bushfire safety plan. So that's why you need both. You need a plan. When to leave? Is it an advice message on a low moderate, would you leave? Everybody has to be on the same page here today, and that's what the discussions to go into the plan will be about. What's the message and what's the FDR rating that you're going to apply for whatever action you're going to do? But be mindful, a message doesn't always go in sequence. You don't always have advice, watch and act, emergency warning. You can have watch and act, emergency warning, or you can have advice, emergency warning. So they're not always sequential. That's why it's really important. Turn televisions off because you can't hear about what's going on inside.
Okay, I can just ask a question through you to Robin. This is for the group side because we've never really come up with a definitive answer on this one. If we were to leave somewhere early with Adam, we could all dream up different places where you might be safe. Where would you suggest, Robin, you might get, given that this whole area is potentially dangerous and in the area anywhere where you went within Gippsland under that definition, where might you go to spend the day, because we're looking at a day, with someone who would need to be, let me say, one of my things is that I've thought that Inverloch would be a good place because they actually, at Inverloch, because I've chosen Inverloch because they actually have a really good community centre.
They do.
It's a really big place.
Yeah.
So it's a spot where Adam, for example, if he crashed, they'd be able to find a couch and we could crash down. So that's my thoughts on it. Would you think that would be, that would be as good a place?
Definitely. Inverloch would be right away from here, from Venus and Darwin, and head straight for Inverloch, without question. And people do go down there and spend the day because when they get these messages, and all of them, if they get a high danger message, they just go off. They sometimes will go to Melbourne for the day, or they clear out. They don't hang around.
Oh, sure. Sure. Okay. And the other thing with Inverloch, of course, is that you don't have to necessarily stay in the community house all day. You actually do have the opportunity to go to cafes, relaxing, and you've got
if everyone from here just goes to Tarwin, that's going to congest Tarwin, and it's going to congest the firefighters and everybody and the emergency or whatever.
Yeah. So I'll just stop you there, and just to be really mindful of these types of conversations, we get asked that a lot, especially in my role. I get asked that a lot. Where should we go? If there's a fire, where should we go? We can't answer that. So that's about listening to what's going on prior. If you were to get an advice message, where's the fire?
Yeah, you might not be able to get to
Inform myself. That's exactly right.
Yeah.
You might not be able to get to Inverloch. So think of communities around the place that you can go to. Currumbara, Inverloch. It may be Tarwin. I doubt whether it'll be congested because there won't be a lot of people here if they do choose to leave early. People think, oh, it's going to be congested. It's actually not.
There will be a lot of, if there was a big fire here, we would be getting a lot of trucks and various appliances from all around our whole district. So we could have heaps and heaps of...
So again, being mindful, if we are going to have a day of severe, we know it at least 3 days before. It's never like 19 degrees, severe the next day. So this is about planning and preparation. So communities need to understand. I've just been up at Buchan for 2 weeks, working with the community and helping them understand we don't jump onto a severe day and we don't jump onto an emergency warning. They are all the apps and all of the information and the social media that we have out there, you are prepared. So you will find that this is a holiday community. You do have your permanent residents, but it's a holiday community. I can guarantee you that. The people up at the caravan park know that they're going to be informing their residences or their holiday makers not to be here on the day. So it's not going to be as congested as you think it is. And don't determine that on a day that you leave early that you go to Inverloch in case that's just as risky. So part of what I'm talking to you today about is making those informed decisions off the information that you get. So maybe next Wednesday is going to be a severe day. You know that already. It could be downgraded prior to that, but plan for it. We won't have Adam here on that day. We will spend the day in block.
That's what I was getting at.
Yeah, yeah. So that's decision making that you need to make prior to that. And then as you get closer to Wednesday, it might be downgraded to very high, might be downgraded to high, and you might say, we don't need to go to Inverloch today. And that's called bushfire planning. So you can't say exactly, standing here right now, this is what we're going to do on that day, whenever risk happens, because you don't know. Fire changes.
The trouble is we haven't really got anywhere here, because on a day like that the community house wasn't here safe. Neither would their fire shed. You know, you're better off to be right away. The other one is that a lot of people have said to me, oh well, if there was a fire and I couldn't go, I'd go to the beach. And we say, no, don't go to the beach, because if there's a fire here, it's likely to get into the sand dunes anyway. If you're on the beach, you've got high tide and low tide. If it gets cold at night, if you've sort of more or less dropped everything and just gone there, you won't have any protection from the sun or from the cold. It'd be terrible. It'd be worse than anything. So we always say, don't go to the beach. It's not a safe option.
95% of the people that died in Black Saturday didn't leave early. They were running to either a pool or a bunker. So it's very hard to understand what you're going to do in those situations. There's no oxygen, it's black, and the heat, the radiant heat, it was the equivalent of something like 12 Hiroshima bombs, the heat from that fire. Actually tore the skin off people before they died of anything else anyway, and burnt their lungs. The difficulty, and it's hard to explain, people, they really want us to say to them what to do and where to go. So for example, this is a fire. So this is the front of the fire and it's heading that way. And our brigade members, they can get along the sides of that fire. They're not going to get in front of it, but they'll be behind, blacking out. They'll come in from the sides and do some stuff, or put some containment lights around where it's cleared around it to remove the fuel, one of the three elements. But then the wind changes. We don't know. We can predict some wind, but we can't change. So this front of the fire, and then you've got your flanks. That flank turns into the front. So that's what happened on Black Saturday. We had a nice big long fire. We had crew all around here, and then the wind did something that nobody could predict. It changed, and the head of the fire became something like 500 kilometres long. And most recently up at Rosedale, it was a similar thing. It was just a nice fire, could get around it.
That changed a few times.
Yes.
Listening to the ABC.
So I was working up there with the community as well. So we were running up to Longford going, oh no, it's going over here. Yeah. So we had to prepare 3 communities and get them ready for their planning. But their decision making is still based on a watch and act, because you have to define out where the fire is, what the wind's doing, what the fuels are. So we have lots of farmers out there making paddocks into dirt to stop the fire, because there's no fuel. So the fire, you have to think of it almost like an animal, because it's clawing its way looking for more fuel. So when we say spotting, what's spotting?
It's where there's spot fires starting further in front of where the fire front is.
Yeah, in front or somewhere. What are embers?
The little
Hot things flying through the air.
Yeah, like what?
Leaves, grass.
Yep. So your fine fuels. So you've got things like leaves, sticks and bark. And they can travel up to 5 kilometres in any direction. So part of the preparation is using that heli home ignition likelihood indicator. What are your fine fuels out here? Because you're not going to get the massive fire front of Black Saturday coming through. You're going to have quick fire because of your tea tree, but you're going to have lots of embers. So what would your fine fuels be around here?
Leaves,
Paddocks, grasses, tea tree, running grass fires. are pretty dangerous.
Yeah.
People living in the suburbs think that they're great, but when they're surrounded by paddocks that have not been developed and they're full of grass, they're a real risk. So running grass fires are just as dangerous as canopies and those types of things.
They can travel in up to 50 to 60 kilometres an
Yeah.
hour and faster.
Yep.
I've known a local brigade that I was in, I wasn't on there, but they were actually on their truck and they were sitting on 60 kilometres an hour and it was right on their tail all the way.
Yeah.
They ended up driving in a dam, but that was how fast it was.
Yeah. Yeah. So they're running. So you're surrounded by a bit of grass here too, aren't you? Yeah.
It's interesting because I thought that would have been a safer,
No.
I was thinking, as I've been talking, I've been thinking about paddocks out there and thinking, well, that would be, that would be
Yeah, that's right.
not much to burn there, but
Yeah.
no.
It just makes it really quick.
Yeah.
Well, you see afterwards when there's just livestock and paddocks, and you think, there's not much in a paddock, yet a paddock can burn, obviously, really quickly.
So you might see on days of severe fire regimes, you might see farmers actually moving their cattle into bare paddocks, and that's part of their survival plan or their own planning. Animals are quite good, especially hooved animals like cows, goats and horses are quite good. They can actually run through fires or damp it down with their feet. There's lots of training here at the CFA to talk about horses and bushfires and farming and bushfires.
You can say sheep.
No.
They're stupid, aren't they?
No, they're not stupid.
No, they're just short-sighted.
They
They're a tad more flammable too.
No, well, they are.
No,
Well, they're not.
sheep.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know if
It's not that
there's
well.
greater survival as other kind of hooved animals.
They're closer to the ground, that's their problem.
Yeah, and they get a bit of a mob mentality as well. And
No, that's what I know. I was
No,
just
stupid.
I'm just being nasty. Just because
yeah, yeah. So the understandings are now, do you think you can better understand what a fire danger is?
Yes.
Yeah, and how it applies to you. So when you see that need to move, just remember if a fire were to start on that day, the one fire truck in BNSA, mind you there are others around, so there's another truck at Tarwin and another truck at Walkerville.
And
But a great big truck full of water doesn't drive that quickly.
no,
No.
the water doesn't last
Yeah.
that long.
So
No.
that information is going to help with the plans for today. Now, understanding your terrain and your fuels is another reason to better understand about how to apply that to the plans for today. If you're in this house and you couldn't get out because you got a advice message and this next thing you got an emergency warning and you said we're going to stay. We're not going to stay and defend, we're going to stay and shelter in place. What would you do?
Close all the windows,
Close the windows.
close the doors, pull down all the blinds, put stuff up things under the door cracks, where any air or can get in.
What's the safest room in this house?
Probably the staff
Sorry?
Well,
bathroom, but
no, not necessarily
You've got a bit
because,
of way out.
yeah, and also we're on a pump here for water, so if the power goes out, we've got no water.
So I can tell you right now, the worst place to be is the bathroom. Why is that?
Because you can't get out.
Smallest room in the house, usually the smallest window and you can't see anything. Leave your blinds up. You need to be able to see what's going on.
Okay, so leave it.
Stay in the biggest room where you've got exits.
Yeah.
So you can see what's going on and you've got exits. So you've got a fire front coming. So what does that mean for you right now looking at your fuels?
so we obviously need to know which way it's coming from.
Yes?
And then,
And you can only do that by looking.
by having these bits open.
Yep, so leave all your blinds right open. Yep.
I would say then the chances of minimising the fuel, the only thing you could think about doing is dampening things that are, or picking the paths of least resistance as in less fuel and go that way.
You can get rid of any doormats or things like that. You might have already done some yard preparation over the next couple of months. You know, get some fuels away from the house a little bit. But your best idea is to shut your doors, shut your windows. You're correct on that. Don't go into the bathroom, because lots of people die in bathrooms because they can't get out. And you can't see anything, and just being near ceramic doesn't help you survive a bushfire.
The first thing you need to do is fill all of the buckets with water, so you've got water, because as soon as the power goes off, you've got no water.
Yeah.
So on the on
Drinking
those
water
days,
is, we've got buckets for drinking water and buckets for other water.
Yeah.
And they all need to be filled up
Yeah.
so that you can go.
You're not going to be here for months though.
like would you
It's going to, so a fire front, if you were here, it wouldn't be too big because you've got on as fast foliage. It would pass through quite quickly. It would pass through, I don't know, 10 seconds. Yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
That should
So
be
it's going to
any time.
ignite on it. You're not living in a forest.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we're talking realistically of this house.
Yeah.
Yeah. So to pass through quite quickly, it's looking for its fuel. The thicker the fuel, the longer it's going to take to burn.
Yeah.
yeah.
So you're not going to see trees exploding, the house isn't going to explode, the house does catch fire, it's going to take a while. So you've got time. Filling some water, that's great, but you're not going to be stuck here for months like in Armageddon or anything like that. So depending where the fire's coming from, you've got your information, you've got your apps, you're listening to the radio. It might be coming from, I have no sense of direction, that way. So it's coming from that way. So you know it's coming from that way. What do you think you could do? You know where your fire's coming from, what would you do?
It would be silly to try and escape in the front of the front, wouldn't it?
Yep.
Yeah.
Isn't it? Yep. Yeah, so your best protection is being in something. So you're in a house, you're protected from your radiant heat, you've got your long clothes on, your pants on, something on your head, woolen blankets or whatever you need to do. You know that the fire's coming from that direction. What would increase your survival chances?
Can I just jump in and finish the woolen blanket? What you don't do is you don't put the woolen blanket, you don't wet it and then around you.
No.
You don't have a wet woolen blanket. That's the worst thing you do.
Yeah.
Because you'll cook within a minute. You'll be dead. Because the water will boil.
Yeah, the heat goes through the wet
It's the water that will boil.
in the blanket.
Yeah. So it's actually dry, you've got a much better chance of protection.
So what's happening is the fire's coming from this direction and it's going that way. So we know that it's looking for its three elements, its heat, its fuel and its oxygen. It's crawling its way through. It's hit the house, so it's going to crawl to the house. It's like, yum, ooh, a lot of fuel here, I can get bigger and bigger and whatever. So I might say this is quite easy. However, when it's in a panic, it's black, it's loud, it might not always be the same, but it's not brain surgery. You go to the fire, you go to that end of the house, and as the fire front passes, you move with it. Here we are here, it's gone, you go back there, or you go outside onto burnt ground, because it doesn't burn twice. So that's what you need to think about. Wherever it's coming from, you meet the fire, I'm here with you because it's not as hot as yet. You go back with the fire as it passes, it's going to go out that way, it's gone. Let's go out this door, because I know it's there, and I'll go out onto the ground.
Okay, can I just raise a question that staff need to be aware of? And we haven't actually tested this as yet, but the fire system that's in this house is such that if there's smoke around, this front door will actually open. It's a fire protection thing that the DHS and the Wisdom have put in. So clearly you don't want to put a padlock on it, but I'm just wondering how might staff deal with that, because you certainly don't want to have that door open if that's the fire front that's going in that direction. So
It's not going to, flames aren't going to come through that door. It's going to hit your fuel, hit your house, and just start going over it. It's just so quick.
I understand that, but my personal preference would be to at least have that door up for as long as you can.
Yeah, you could quickly nail a blanket or something over it if the door
Maybe even a
opens.
chair.
Well, yeah, how does that, like that door, we need a key to unlock it, how does it automatically open?
Because it's linked in with the fire smoke alarm system.
Oh, is it?
And if there's smoke, if these alarms go
Yeah,
off,
which is crazy.
then
noise.
that door, that lock will unlock. It actually is not a lock, it's actually a little clip on the side that will actually, a little latch. So
Okay,
I've had a discussion with DHS and they didn't think it was a problem, but they didn't know about bushfires.
okay.
So,
But have we got a sprinkler system here too?
no.
No, because I remember there was a big issue
No,
about
they were going
that
to
too.
do that, but that hasn't happened.
Right,
Yeah.
yeah.
So we need
But
to
that
think about
wouldn't, that'd be irrelevant anyway,
Yeah,
there's no
yeah.
power. Yeah.
So one thing you might be able to do is even just put a chair in front of it, so at least it's because it'll open up wide.
Yeah.
Maybe one thing, and then you pull it out of the way.
Yeah, or hammer a blanket up over
Yeah,
it.
yeah, blanket would be good.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Oh,
I
sorry,
mean,
and also with that, while that's happening, we also have the alarm clock in the house too, which is
Yeah.
even worse.
Yeah.
So we've got a double whammy that,
Yeah.
that DHS don't seem to realise, so.
No, we do have
noise
earmuffs.
is quite
Do we
traumatic.
have
There are earmuffs,
potentially
but-
ones for us and that just wouldn't work. I don't know.
Well, he won't have them.
No, that's what
No.
I'm thinking.
it's a discussion I would have to have with DHS and see if they can come up with a better solution for this.
Yeah.
If you have it in the house. Luckily, I don't think it'd be for too long, but it would be
No.
pretty traumatic, having to deal with that as well.
Having been caught in the house with the fire alarms rattling ringing and not being able to turn them off, I've realised that it sends your brain crazy, you can't think straight.
Oh,
Yeah,
because
there's-
it's-
It's just piercing.
Yeah, and it's
it's
relentless.
Yeah.
It just,
Yeah.
I just
Okay.
my brain is fully functioning.
You can keep turn them off, they'll turn down when I get 2 minutes later.
Yeah.
So there is a switch that I'll show you later down
Yeah.
in the staff bedroom,
Yeah.
where you can actually flip the switch, it will
Yeah.
go off.
Could,
for a
I
couple of
know this
minutes.
probably seems not
Could you-
very important, but would those little ear things for Adam be like just those little,
Green
Okay.
things.
Would-
so that-
poke them in?
We might have a look at that, see if we can get something, but he probably won't be.
Just,
No, no, I
I
doubt
don't
it.
think he will.
Under the circumstances, it'd be very difficult to do that.
yeah,
You know what I mean? You
Yeah.
think about surviving and, hey, I'm certain out of it.
he put,
Wouldn't put up with it,
Yeah, yeah. Okay, let's maybe have a discussion about that later, because that's really a big issue that we need to resolve and think about. And we'll certainly put it in. I'm just alerting you to the fact that that's one of the possibilities. The alarm might not go off, but it's only if the smoke gets into the house.
Yeah,
that's
into the
likely
house, that's
that
right.
it might trigger it.
Very, very heat, excessive heat.
I'm not sure about that. Yeah, probably it's heated.
Yeah.
There's
They're
no
very
fear
sensitive.
of heat.
The alarm triggers when the power's cut.
No, not power, no, it's not to do with
Because
power.
No, it's separate to the power.
I've heard that the alarm's gone off when the power's failed.
No, it won't go
No,
off.
and the power was flickering last
It,
month.
it has a battery in the roof, so if the
Yeah.
power does go off, these little emergency lights will go on.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
The fire bit won't go unless there's smoke or heat.
So, Kat, sorry, you're just understanding the theory behind why you follow the fire from one side of the house to the other?
Because it's to do with the heat as it passes through. So houses don't explode. Basically, a front would hit the house,
Yeah.
and that would start burning. So that's where you would move with the fire to keep away from that heat. Then you move back when the front's gone out onto burnt ground.
So it's cooler at like where that line of fire is as it's passing through.
Well, not necessarily cooler, but safer.
So
Yeah, yeah. But always onto burnt ground. Don't go out anywhere near a fire. So, if you were leaving early, for example, but there was a fire somewhere near you, and for whatever reason you were in your car with Adam and you were caught in a fire, who understands safe processes around travelling through a bushfire area?
Only from, what the tallies said really.
Yeah.
You know, keep your lights on, don't
Why do you
drive,
keep your lights on?
so everyone else can see you.
Yeah, because it's dark.
Yeah.
Yeah. So keep your lights on because it's dark. Yeah.
If the aircon runs, if the aircon running, have blankets to get
Do you have the aircon?
Why do you keep-
the fire front, because of the airflow over the car. Be out of the way of fire trucks if you can.
So that's a big one.
Park
So
behind something that's going to prevent, like a
no.
shed.
Oh, no, is it? Remember that's fuel though. So
Yeah.
try and park in the open, don't park under a tree if you can
No,
see it.
no.
Pull off the side of the road, leave your lights on. You can leave the car running to have the radio on. Don't know about the aircon, it's a bit of a he says, she says one.
My car, you don't need to have the engine run
Yeah.
the radio.
It's often better to turn the engine off, but have the radio on. Get it down low. If you've got woolen blankets in the car, just cover yourself with the woolen blankets because of the possibility of the windows breaking as it goes through. As soon as the front has passed, get out of the car onto burnt ground. So it's always onto burnt ground. So lights on for safety, pull off the road for safety, because there might be other vehicles travelling on there that you can't see. Leave the radio on if you can. As soon as the front has passed, which are mostly very, very quick, get out of the car straight away onto burnt ground, not onto burnt ground. So it's about ensuring that you've got a kit in the car. There is no good having a kit in the boot. Why wouldn't you have a kit in the boot?
You've got to get out of that car.
You've got to get out of the car to get your kit. So if you are travelling and you're at risk of bushfire, you have your kit in the back seat. So you either get into the back seat, put your blanket over you, or you can pull over and grab it from there. But don't have it in the boot unless you can access your boot from the car.
If I could jump in there. This was Adam's fire bag. It's always been in his boot, so that it actually, as you've indicated, should be taken out, should be in the car. Now, it's been a while since I've actually had a fire session, but I've actually just went and grabbed this bag now, and whilst it's got some protective clothing in there for Adam, a number of the things that were supposed to be in there, and it's not to put blame on anyone, but they're obviously because we haven't done this for 100 years, but this needs to actually be there with, there's a list of things that need to be in there for Adam, and things you'll take with you, and there's actually a couple of blankets, so they should also be in the car as well. So it's probably one of the things we can do today is actually get all this set up and actually have it in the car in the event that you're out and about. Okay. And the other thing that we also ask you to do is, as your own workers, you also live in this fire zone with Adam as well, you also need to have your own fire bag. You need to bring the bag for yourself. We've got blankets in the car, 2 blankets there. You need to bring your own bag that's got all the things you need to protect yourself, which is the spare. Well, do you want to run through what the things might be?
Yeah.
So the rather me.
So I've actually brought you all today, to take them home, is a leave early kit.
Nice.
Yeah. Yeah. So things to back and be prepared, because there's nothing worse than leaving early and going, I don't know what to take, and running around in circles. So, change of clothes. The reason for having the long sleeves is the radiant heat will tear your skin off your bones. You're not going to die from burn to death, if not, you'll be already dead. So it's about protecting. Who's been camping and you're sitting in front of a fire and then someone walks in between you and that fire?
Yeah.
You've lost that radiant heat, so that's how strong it is, and that's just a little campfire. So let's quadruple that. Imagine the heat coming off from that. So it's a change of clothes, toiletries, food and water, a woolen blanket, torch, phone chargers, medications, items for your pets if you're taking those, your favourite toy book or game if you're a kid. So they're the things. So what I've put inside these bags.
So if we cotton or wool clothes, you wouldn't wear.
No, definitely.
No, yeah, like the pyjamas we had when we were kids.
Yeah.
You've all got a fire hat.
Oh,
Got one of those in for you.
My granddaughter will love that.
Grandkids will love these. So these are fire-ready kits. These are fantastic. They're a brilliant resource. So at your own leisure or together, you can go down. It's just going to go over the information that I've given you today about what's fire, what are your risks, what's it going to do, and how can you apply different levels of decision making depending on your circumstances. So it talks about water supplies, it talks about housing, how fire can impact you, all the things I've shown you. And it also talks about, gives you some plans, so a template, gets you thinking about what you need to do, what you need to take, in this situation, you all need to have the same plan. You can't have a different plan for Adam's, yours, and so on. It needs to be a decided plan with his safety in mind and defending your property as well. I probably, you can minimise the risks out there now, prepare for summer, rake up leaves and such. That's about as good as you can get. You fill your gutters with water on days, and we've also popped in there. There's some other things that you get for guide to survival. But these things are really quite good. They're more used. We use them a lot in winter for home fire safety, for risks around the house. But on the back is a template where you can actually draw your house and then make your decisions. Where are your windows? Where are your doors? Where are your fire alarms? And where are your risks? So the biggest risks for home fire safety for this house is obviously the kitchen, because you've got your stoves, you've got cooktops, you've got wall plugs, adapters, that kind of stuff. So you're looking at where your risks are. So this is a good little exercise to really open Canaras as well. What's the risk with the Canaras?
It's gas.
Oh, it's gas?
Yeah.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah. That's still another issue because we have a big gas bottle outside. Mm. It's all right.
Yeah. Yeah. That'll be. Yeah.
With your Canaras, you've already got the fire to start, and you quite often have more fuel sitting beside it to go on it. Like if you've had an open fire or would heat it.
Big logs don't ignite very quickly.
No.
It's the creosote build-up. The creosote from people burning that crap. Free wood they get off the side of the road, like pallets and pine.
Pine is the worst.
Yeah, so creosote is just such a risk. But people still keep doing it. They get all the pine off cuts from somewhere and just burn it. And the black stuff, it's just, you can use those as fire lighters. Stuff that you get. So you'll all have one of these in your kits. So what, if I can suggest, keep these, you can get the hats to wherever you want to chop those in because it's fun. Keep these as your fire
bags.
Yeah,
great.
Thank you. They're great, thank you.
Yeah. So there should be enough for everyone around there.
Would it be logical just to have one bag like that set up?
Yeah.
Companion bag with ads rather than everyone have.
No, there'll be one for everyone. That's the point though, I guess. But everyone needs their own clothes that will fit
That's
them.
right.
So you really need your own bag. And for your own safety, while you're even travelling from where you might be down to here, you need to get yourself safe anyway. So it's for your own protection, not just when you're without them, but it's take it on board for every other day when you're travelling around and when you're on the way. So it's a bigger picture than just
that's a good idea. Yeah.
The long sleeves and things is good, that's what you need. But you also need solid boots or shoes because when you step out of your car or outside, you've got hot ash. And sometimes it can gather in pools and you just go straight down into it.
You know, I see people in the fire zones running around in short and thongs, which I just rub my hand, you just feel it, So thongs are not a good idea.
Yeah, they're not the ideal safety boot. I know my hubby feels the same. Yeah, so just to ensure that these are in the back end of the car, just pop them behind the seat or under the seat, but not in the boot. So people often get caught out. And a torch is something really good because it's going to be dark. If worst case scenario, you are caught, so you can use it if you do get out of the car as a couple of warning signal for anyone as well.
Drinking water as well.
Yeah. You should always have water in your car anyway. So there should be enough of those there for everyone. So just kind of talking about around the house again, just things that you can do to ensure that you're minimising your risk again. So it's reducing the fine fuel. So remembering big trees have their own kind of fire retardant on them, which is the bark. So that'll burn quickly, often and go. If it gets up into the canopy, sometimes the layers can just catch fire and drop. It doesn't necessarily mean that tree is going to burn unless there's a big fire around it for it to ignite. But it's all about your fine fuels. So looking in the garden over there, you've got the mulch, you've got the timber fences, that lattice, those types of things. So there's a risk whether you want to have a bit of a working bee and tidy up as much as you can. You've got a small, containment line of the lawn and everything there, which is nice and green, which is a great preventer. But yeah, that's something that you can look about from there. So any questions so far? Is there anything that anybody's a bit confused about? Or
Yeah, I'd like to go back to the fire rating and the watch and act stuff,
yeah,
if you don't mind.
yeah.
Just, so we've got a high fire danger rating today.
Mhm.
If there was a fire and the radio said watch and act, would it be most advisable to leave? Would the sensible thing be to leave?
For my fire plan, I can't tell you what to do. You need to make your decisions.
Yeah.
On a watch and act, I would leave.
You would leave.
Yeah, I would leave on a watch and act in summer, low moderate.
Okay.
The thing is, around here, anywhere you go, you've got to be travelling through where the fire is likely to be.
That was my next.
Tarwin and
Tarwin, Lindsay,
anywhere to
Inverloch,
or
the Inverloch,
So anywhere in Victoria, there's a fire likely to be. Anywhere.
Yeah, the most likely spot for it is outside Venus Bay on your way out.
I don't know, it could be a fire only in Venus Bay.
Well,
Venus
yes,
Bay.
Venus Bay is surrounded by water on three sides, so it would have to start out at Smythe's Point for it to worry you down here.
It can spot across Nimble pretty readily over to this part of the peninsula, pretty bad day.
Yeah.
So let's not predict where the fire is.
Yeah.
Let's just make a decision based on this and the information at the time.
And where the fire, I guess, at the time, that's where I'm coming from, is because it's highly likely that a fire, we're saying go to Inverloch for the day, it's highly likely that the fire's on the road between here and Inverloch. That's a strong possibility.
That's what we're trying to say is if you can't get out and go to your Inverloch community centre or whatever, what do you do from here if we're blocked off from even getting through past the shops?
And well, given that the fire's going to be like, as
So
you're
you
saying,
just
the fire front's so fast that it'll be over if, for instance, the fire front was, coming from the paddocks, so and heading towards us and going that way, we would be better off using our plan and sitting down and letting it pass over.
I can't tell you what to do because I don't know where the fire is. So what I can do is give you the fundamentals so you can make the best decision. So for example, it's a very high fire danger day, meaning that it's going to be a bit crappo. You receive a watch and act message, and there is a fire here in Venus Bay. You find out where the fire is when you get the first advice message. You know where it is. It's just over there behind you in the tea tree. So you would leave. Well, there's a fire there on the road out to Tarwin. You know that because you got an advice message. It's
And
a
sometimes
severe
they
day.
Yeah, sometimes these messages state the roads that you can't go on.
Yes, yeah,
Roads
they'll
are
tell you where
open,
closures
roads are
were.
closed.
But if there was a road closed, you would know that well before. If there was a fire and there was a road closed, you would have known that 5 hours ago. Because 3 days prior, you would have got the warning to say that Wednesday is going to be a severe day. So it's highly unlikely you would be trapped here at Venus Bay. So it's worst case scenario. When was the last big fire here?
In the 80s.
So this information really applies to wherever you are in Victoria, but right now we're making a plan for Adam. So we need to make informed decisions based on the information that we'll be getting. So a good place is to go down to the ice cream shop. And you've got a bit of containment line for you down there. So whether it's clear ground.
And you also have additional people, community people who do know Adam and who may well be around, that in a bad situation, you may well have an extra pair of hands, people who would be able to help you as well if you needed that extra hand. If Adam went down to the seizure and the other people around, there's no doubt they would, and you know, you're all safe, they would be around to give you a hand if you need to be moved into such a spot.
Yeah, and understanding your fuel types. You're not living in Omeo and you're not living in Fern Tree Gully, so your risks are different. You've got grassland and tea tree and very other, not really anything else. So based on those risks, if there was a front, it would only be because a wind would be whipping some flames from somewhere through. So you're not going to have that big rumbling front that tore through a few communities up there. So you're not Glengarry or these different areas. So it's making the decisions based on where you are now. So your realities of the three elements of your fuels and your oxygens and then the heat of the day. Clear about that? So this is no Black Saturdays happening here. Okay? You don't have the fuels for it.
It's an interesting point though, because people often say, oh, there hasn't been a fire for 20 years. That can sometimes actually not necessarily mean there won't be, because I look at that and I say, well, if there hasn't been a fire, what's the fuel been doing over the last 20 years? So it's been building up in places that you may not see. You might be able to say in around here, if you go out into those sand dunes up there, and there's fuel everywhere.
I think the last one started in the...
It's a clearinghouse, they clear places. You haven't been here for 20, 30 years. Don't think necessarily automatically make you safe. It's all going to be a bit.
Easily.
Yeah, but it's different fuel.
Oh, absolutely. Yes.
Yeah.
When Adam came here from and we had a discussion with the local council, when he was actually coming to live in this area, they actually thought it was quite. They couldn't get their head around Adam coming to live, and the guy that was actually in council actually couldn't quite get it. He said, "Well, you're bringing him to a fire zone." And I said, "No, this is not a fire zone." I said, "He comes from a
fire zone.
He comes from a fire zone which has a rating of about 150, and he comes here and it's got a high rating. I'm putting this area maybe 50. By comparison.
I'm not sure what it is.
It's still dangerous though. Still.
It would be a place might went up with the right conditions and
absolutely. And that's changed dramatically in the last 10 years.
I get really calm in a few minutes.
I'd be out of there.
Mine's...
Might go up like a Roman candle.
Yes. No house can withstand a fire, but most houses can withstand spotting. So, you know, if there is a fire nearby and you've got embers coming over, you can get out and be active, not be reliant, but be resilient. You know, put water in your garden.
I just take
I want to go home and check my house.
Yeah.
She's promised to put one in.
Yeah. So, does everybody have a copy of the fire plan that Les and Peter have put together?
Yeah, but not with me.
Yes,
That's it in there.
That's in Adam's plan. So that's why you've been in it.
Yeah. So what are some of the things that people have concerns about? So thinking about the information that you've just received, what are some things that are highlighted for you that you have concerns about, or you think, you know a little, you're here with Adam more often, that you think should be included, or what are some thoughts around that?
This practicality, on warmer days, Adam can be less active, more sleepy, that sort of thing. So, getting, I suppose it's the idea of leaving early or planning early, but actually getting Adam out into the car, can be a...
I wouldn't be asking him, Rob. I wouldn't be asking Ed if he's ready to go. I would drag him out by his ankles if I had to. I wouldn't think twice about it.
That's the thing.
I wouldn't.
Blokes could carry him.
But that's and so what if he breaks a rib while he's banking while I'm getting him down the stairs? I don't care. I just get him out. That's the alternative is It's dead.
They're fried on
I'm
the
not saying
footpath
it's
like
not
last
possible,
week.
but it is a challenge.
Yes, yeah. So that's something that you all could talk about is what are some ways to help Adam away from here, knowing that he's going to be resistant or sluggish or those sorts of things. So I can't help you with those. They're things that collectively as a group and with Liz and Petty need to talk about, and obviously with Adam as well. What are some other challenges you think?
I think for us, the watch and act is, if we've already got that, then, you know, that's already, we need to be being aware of things well and truly before that. And on the majority of occasions, we're with Adam by ourselves. So that places us in the situation of either having to deal with Adam and then having to deal with whatever else might be happening. So safety for us and Adam is more important than...
So is that where an agreement would come in on an advice message, regardless of the FDR, you activate a plan and leave?
Well, it'd be something that we'd need everybody to all be on the same thing, because there's too many scenarios for what could or couldn't happen.
Yes.
So let's just go, we got one scenario and we apply it in every situation.
Yep.
And then that's got to have the best outcome for us and Adam.
So when you receive an advice message, you would check whatever way, local radio, big emergency app, whatever, where is the fire to me? Find out where it is, and then leave it. Knowing that Adam's going to be perhaps a bit resistant to getting in the car, or what other hurdles?
Just get a bag of chips out of the cupboard and you can just lead him out with a bag of chips.
If it works.
Or a Tim Tam.
Until we go to McDonald's or...
Yeah, just make a day out of it.
Yes.
Or you might only be gone for a couple of hours, but at least
you might also be gone overnight.
Yeah.
Because it's quite possible if you went into Inverloch for the day, it's more than likely if the fire started, somewhere between here and Inverloch, which is quite much more likely than being here. It's not
If
then you won't be able to get back.
Yeah, if the risk and the issue still exists, then we can't come back. Or if we go, oh yeah, things seem to have settled a bit, and then you come back, which might be a stupid thing to do.
So we'll have to work out scenarios there. I mean, you're not necessarily going to be able to book in the nearest motel because there'll be probably 100 other people all doing the same thing. But maybe it's another option, so maybe we might...
If you couldn't get back, there'd be community centres.
I'm just thinking, but moving into the community centre, you then might think about even doing a sleeping bag, maybe even a mattress, they might also need maybe in the boot perhaps, in the event. I'm just thinking off the top of my head. So you might well need to have some stuff that might be available, or the community has to be very clear. They also say this is not a safe place.
Yeah.
And that's fine, I actually get that. But they're not going to deny you the opportunity to go there if you have to.
No, so they're separate. Places of last resort and community safe places we don't talk about because of the risk that it can propose to people, because they go, and it actually, there were some people that didn't survive some big fires because they're like, yep, there's a safer place down there. And that's, our fire plan is, if there's a fire, we're going down there to that letterbox because that's a safer place.
So it's also
so they died
insurance,
doing
it's
that.
also insurance as well, from their perspective. If they were actually saying this is a safe place and you then killed or seriously injured, they could then come back and say, well, you said it was a safe place, now I'm going to hold you liable for that. So I understand why they're saying that.
But the main thing is, you can't say where a fire is going to be and say, I'm going to go to the beach. I'm going to go to the beach, or I'm going to go to that community safer place, or that place of last resort. Because the majority of people that died in Black Saturday died on their way to a swimming pool or a bunker because that was their plan. So we've learnt from that. That with the information that you get and the understanding that you get about fire behaviour and the warnings and advice is that you can make the best decision based on that information at the time. My advice to you would be, because of Adam and his disabilities, will be that you would pop him in the car on an advice message. That's what I would do. Because it's going to take you time to put stuff in the car, check you've got medications, changes of clothes, that kind of stuff. Lure him out with a Tim Tam, hop in the car and go somewhere for the day. Just don't be here because the
Make
risk
sure
is
you've got
too
your
high.
medication. Enough.
I was going to say that, I mean, would it be a sensible thing to do, given that the circumstances will be very stressful and dire, that there may be, in his file bag, changed regularly, up-to-date meds, just in
I
case.
suspect they would be out of
Is there a checklist in, or just a
If
checklist
they're all in
there
his
or
yellow
something?
bag, I think you just take the yellow
Yeah.
bag. Take the yellow bag, yeah.
And in terms of the decision that you make, we talk about insurance responsibility. I'm sure Peter's with me on this part. Whatever decision you guys make based on whatever is available to you at the time, that is the best decision. If in the event that goes
Pear-shaped.
pear-shaped, get the right road, then we certainly are not going to hold any responsibility for that. You can only act on what was there at the time. There's no sort of giving safe, you do actually be safe. If you make the decision, then you will look at that.
I guess it's good that it's Venus Bay and it is pretty much an isolated place. So you're either going to have fire in Venus Bay or you're not. So if there's a fire in Venus Bay, you get out.
Yep, exactly. Yeah, yeah. Because it's that old little one road in, one road out issue. But if you can guarantee if there's a fire, there's no one really coming in except at appliances, but they would already be here anyway, so if you were getting out, everyone could get out. The holiday makers would be discouraged from coming here on a day such as that, and the holiday park would be closed. So they've got their own plans around managing tourism. It's a huge issue, especially in areas such as this, managing tourism. But in saying all this doom and gloom, if there's a fire now, CFA have quite great strategies now. If there's a fire, they saturate it. They throw everything they can at it. We've got 2 air appliances as well that can be here in a flash. So they don't go, oh, there's a fire up the road there, I'll call on Darwin Lower and they can send their tanker out from Venus Bay. There's a fire up there, we're going to chuck everything at it. We're going to get it out as quickly as we can. And that's what they do. They do it everywhere now. You'll hear, lots of appliances have been sent out to all those areas because they just throw everything at it. There's no just one brigade out there roughing it out or anything like that. And there's 2 air appliances that we have for the South East region that just flat their way out here quite quickly, bomb it and off they go. Yeah. So that's another safety mechanism as well.
Where are they based?
At the minute they're hovering around the Thompson fire, so not really under control. So who understands the language for not yet under control? What does that mean?
It means it's not under control.
It means it's out of control.
That's right, they can't stop it.
Yeah. So how do they determine when a fire's under control?
When they've eliminated or reduced the impact of one of the sources, when they're doing one
Mainly it's around the prevention of it spreading. They've got containment line all the way around. If they can only get around that much and there's little gap there, it's still out of control. Yeah. So it's a control line or a containment line. So it means, reducing the fuels, they'll bring in dozers and all of that stuff in order to prevent any so I was just going to say, the code red, where Victoria is the only state in Australia that uses code red. What else is that known everywhere else in Australia? Catastrophic. But we can't say that here after Black Saturday because it can incite You know, a lot of despair for people that were injured from the fire or real people. So it actually means catastrophic. There is no possible way that anybody can do anything about a fire that's under the ground. That's the damage that it would cause if the fire started on a corridor day. So thinking of what it would be like, you have, it'd be 40-something degrees for X amount of days, it'd be high winds, it would be just
Last
horrible.
Friday. Oh, that was
So last Friday was severe. Yeah. Yeah. So last Friday, if fire were to start, the damage it would do would be severe.
This started, the hot wind started really loud.
It's surprising that there isn't more fire, given that there's broken glass in grass on the side of the road on really hot days, you know. It's amazing that there's not more fire, given.
Yeah, and then there's lightning strikes.
And lightning strikes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was watching
cool.
it last night.
Yeah.
Just a lucky.
Yeah. We're a lot better at managing fire now.
Is that because Black Saturday? It's
From every fire.
Yeah.
Every fire that brigades go to, there's always some kind of learnings from all the time.
So I lived in Moving North and we had the big fires the week before Black Saturday.
Yeah.
So it was scary.
Yeah,
It was
Moving
very
North
scary.
is such a bad position.
Yeah, and a lot of houses were lost. And Moving North was lucky, well, not lucky, but
Lucky, unlucky.
yeah, the wind changed and it went to Ballara and it was, that was terrible. We just watched car after car after car.
Yeah. So the schools in Moving North are now what's called the Bushfire Register.
Yeah.
So on a severe day, they're closed.
Yeah.
So there's actually no schools around these areas that are on it. So there's places like Harkaway, Upper Beaconsville, Moving North, Ballara, Toongabbie, those
So
schools.
Moving North surrounded by people.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
but we're surrounded by a fair bit of bush.
it's different fuel type.
Yeah.
So you could get a front through there.
Yeah.
Oh, our house just
Should
goes
have
like
a
that. We're across the road from Bath's Reserve.
Yeah,
That
chuck it
car's
all
went gone.
Alright, so any questions or anything about what we talked about?
Oh, I feel better now.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
I just, no, it's been good. Just have to have all that stuff in the car. And these bags will be good. Cause,
Yeah, thanks for that.
Yes, thank you for that. Because, we have been prompted in discussions in the past about having a fire bag, and then you forget about it, and then you just,
If we make Adams one of those,
Yeah.
and have it in the front of the car, in the passenger side, because we're going to have to getting in the back with him behind the seat. So it's probably better.
So I bought 11.
probably easy to get into
We
that
do have a
too.
few people
Yeah.
on the right today, so that's
Yeah.
lovely, thank you.
Yeah.
And just, we'll also have a discussion about if you are in the car and you actually can't move and you've got to stay with Adam, one of the things you might well need to do, and I suggest, is actually practice getting in the back seat with Adam and covering yourself with blanket.
Practice getting down off the floor.
So he'll come forward with that.
Oh, you'll love that, won't you?
Yeah.
Wait, next time we partner with paint.
But so maybe if you could all practice that, and the things that don't work or what he does to actually make it difficult, we'll work through how we can maybe improve on that.
It's actually a really good idea. So all brigades do it every year is the burnover training. So it's simulating being in a truck. They pull the DVs, they've got names, DVs down on the glass, turn the sprays on, put stuff over us. Everyone that drives a C8 vehicle has to do burnover training. And then they give us lunch and makes it more fun. But it's good to put yourself in that situation and practice doing all of that stuff, because it does happen. People do get caught in cars and bushfires. Yeah. So,
See, that's another thing too, is, you've got to get to the garage, get the car out. Like,
What about
if you take it in your own car, like, but then you've still got to get all the stuff out of his car to put in your car. It's just that time frame thing if you have to sort of go in a hurry. But hopefully you're more prepared before that.
I was just going to say, you're forewarned about the you have your car.
I did that. I got creeped out a few weeks ago, and the one said,
Yeah. So that's where, now you know that next Wednesday it's going to be a severe day. If I was you, I would plan not to come here that day. Knowing of all of Adam's needs and your own personal needs, that's what I would do.
Another virus just turned up right at time for lunch.
God, it's like they can smell it.
I guess the only thing with that is, that's a forecast that's not just for the Queen's Bay, that's a forecast usually for the whole of Victoria.
No. FDR ratings at Dunbar districts.
Okay,
Yeah.
so
Region.
South
Pardon
Gippsland.
me.
So you plan to get ads.
Southwest Gippsland here.
Yeah. So you plan to get ads out of this area. Potentially you're taking them into another area, it's just as dangerous.
No, you were going to town. You'd go to a supermarket or something cool. That's what we're suggesting. Yeah.
Throw the glass in the thing.
So total 5 band days are thrown around like lollies. There's huge decisions before they make a TFA because it impacts heavily on industry, especially the timber industry. So it's at a real last resort that they declare that because there are a lot of industries that can't operate on those days.
We were away camping and there was total fire ban about 2 days ago. And luckily I heard it on the radio before I got to camp. So, I said, it's fire ban tomorrow, so we put the fire out the night before. But the rangers came around to make sure that people had, the camp put out, which was really good. But we got out anyway. But,
so you know that they mean something.
Yeah, well, and a lot of times when you camp in the bush, we don't listen to the radio or have, no mobile reception where we were either. So I was just fortunate I said I was total fire ban tomorrow.
Yeah.
So a lot of people actually don't know if they're out in the bush that it's total fire ban.
Some do.
Yeah, but there's some that probably don't.
You here for lunch? So for those that don't know, he's our local captain, Mick.
Hi Mick. Hello. Thanks for coming.
Yeah.
So maybe Michael could just have a quick talk about the local brigade as well.
Yeah. He might be able to say a bit more about where to go, like when we were talking about the possibilities of the guys here and there when you're leaving. Nick might be able to clarify that.
Do you want to come over there, Nick, or do you want to come into there? Just really on camera.
Oh, right.
Move the camera, Mick, that's all right. Thank you.
So what we were wondering about?
Just a bit more local area knowledge.
Right, well, just to start off, we have 3 stations at Tarnlower. Tarnlower is the main station. Venus Bay is just a satellite station, so it just stores a tanker and the brigade goes there, with the crew and mans it and responds. And Walkerville is also a satellite station. So we're pretty light on members too, so I've actually got people on CFA members from Avinda and other brigades that give us a hand. So we're quite strong from Thursdays, Fridays, Saturday, Sunday, and then we're back to just the community, members of Tarnlower. So I think we better mention. Sorry?
You on a recruitment drive?
Oh, we've been trying.
Yeah.
Because we've only actually got 3 firefighters, I think it is in Venus Bay, maybe 4 at Tarwin, and then we've got 8 to 10 at Walkerville. So when we respond, the first clients that arrive mightn't be fully crewed, so we actually have to wait until we've got
A crew.
a crew. that'll stop in a minute. And we've got so many different, like we've got grassland, running grass fires, which is your dangerous ones, like this time of year. If you have a look at the paddocks, they're all cured and they're not all cut for hay or whatever.
So is that the grassland and the tea tree?
Yeah, and then we've got the coastal park, which is the tea tree.
So is the grassland what is our biggest risk, really?
Yeah.
That's what you guys are concerned about most.
Oh yeah. Because for example, we've got grassland coming along, and the fire can actually go to the speed of the wind virtually, just depending on the day. Like last Friday, we wouldn't have been able to control it at all. It was severe. We had 40-knot winds. By the time we got enough.
It just seems that that's the way it is, isn't it? Like, we're getting the days, we're getting the heat, and we seem to get the wind thing with it, isn't it?
Oh, yeah.
The wind just
creates its own.
Yeah, here we always get the northeast, northeast.
Yep.
And then in the afternoons, you get the southwesterly change, which there's a touched on this here. So your actual flanks become your head. So that's where everything goes pear-shaped very quickly. Yeah. So as a brigade, we have to actually try and make sure we do a really good job that first initial attack. But mind you, we're supported by, if it's Venus Bay here, we're supported by Town Creek as well. So not only have you got Walkerville, Tank, Venus Bay and Tarwin responding, we've also got the Pan Creek tanker responding as well. And then there's mechanisms put in, depending on the size of the fire, to how many we want. It's just a matter of me getting on the radio requesting to get fire.
How many resources
That's
are
it.
called in?
For example, I start off make tankers 5.
Yeah.
So there'll be 5 tankers plus an FCV as a command vehicle. And then you go up to 10 make tankers 10, and then automatically goes to FCV, so we've got, and then big fills, so we can actually fill the tankers from wherever the water supply is. But down here, we don't have mains water. So straight away, I've got a problem like Inverloch, we'll use that as an example, or Fish Creek, they've got mains water, so they can actually tap in to their hydrants on the side of the road and fill up, where I've got to go to either private tanks, dams, or allocated
That's what we were talking
water
about
points.
Because it's, we're all reliant on pumps and things like that.
And then we've got what we call turnaround time. So going from the actual scene back to the water point and to get back, most of the times I've got to sort of double the amount of tankers because of the turnaround time to go and get the water. So everything, you've got to be well planned. You know, have a plan and know when to pull the trigger. To, in this case, I'd get out. I wouldn't even worry about staying.
Well, with leaving early, that's Inverloch is probably the closest better place to be. But you were saying yourself that you were more worried about the grassland between here and Inverloch than you are about here. So,
well, when I speak about that, like from here to Walkerville, it's flat grassland all the way. And it's virtually the same to Inverloch as well.
You're travelling through very nasty country.
You're
leading somewhere that's marginally safer.
The grass fires are incredible.
It doesn't make sense to me. It really doesn't.
Leaving or staying,
I'm always reminded of the grass fires of the Burra, between Geelong and Melbourne back in whenever it was years ago. It was the grass fires that actually killed all the people out of their cars. There was like a dozen people that have gone in 5 minutes.
And you'll find that they're all, they've either left their property, like if you're in the house here, to say, to stop the radiant heat, but it's when they leave the house they found them in the cars or travelling. Yeah.
So that's why on an advice message, you find out where the fire is, and then you determine what you're going to do.
That's so important. I didn't realise how important that was.
There is a fire in your vicinity, so you need to. That's
Find out where.
That's your biggest trigger, is that advice message.
Yeah.
And has everyone here got the Vic Emergency app?
I used to, but I better put it back on my phone.
Because that is excellent.
Yes, I know.
I know it's annoying.
I know,
because
I live close to the valley and then
I must admit, I get so many warnings. I get warning fatigue, and you tend to endure it. I mean,
you do
previously
tend to,
I would jump up in the middle of the night and go, let it go ding.
Yeah, you get to be.
I know, it's not me doing that now.
You get
Yeah,
like,
they do
just go,
Yeah.
oh yeah, there it is, there it is again.
Yeah, I've just put mine back on in the last couple of weeks, but and it's still got me up at night. You know, you
Yeah.
Because without warnings in the Dandenongs, we can get fires within a matter of an hour.
Oh, that's, yeah.
Cockatoos,
Well, we
Yeah.
also
they're
get,
popping up all over the place.
we
All
get
safe,
warnings
but
from
they're all
Iran
there.
from Mexican Creek, so.
But it's an excellent tool. You can actually turn it off where it still works,
Yep.
but it's not sounding the alarm, but you really want to be notified, so you need the alarm.
Yeah, that's
Is that
right.
taking more notice if it was a very severe day, night, or
That's
Yeah,
exactly
yeah.
right.
So,
I actually turn notifications on when I'm here.
Well, that's-
Turn them off when I go home.
that's what I was going to get to. When you're working here,
Yeah.
I'd turn it on and then turn it off.
But I tend to leave it on because it'll also track where you are. So if you're actually heading home somewhere, it'll actually alert you if there's a fire within, however you've set it, within the 20 metres of where you might be. So you might even be travelling up in, you might be over in, you might be in North Victoria, and travelling around, and get an alert that there's a fire. It's a really useful tool just to keep yourself safe. If you need it.
There.
Yeah.
So, because the main message here is to act on what your plan is, and sort of get him out. I would. And wouldn't muck around with it either, because don't forget you've got the one road in and one road out. So, but we've got inlet on one side, so we haven't got, for example, if there's a running grass fire on this side, if you went to Inverloch, it wouldn't affect that because you've got the inlet. So it's not going to jump the inlet at this point, you know. The same again with going out to Tarwin, you've got the riverbank there. So you've only got the one side to worry about. But you've got to be conscious that it's just one road in and one road out.
Wind and that though, wouldn't the other side of the river be at risk with, because it's still quite, that's not a big, to me that's not a, the inlet's a big barrier.
Yeah.
But the actual river, or,
Like jump.
Yeah, it just depending on the day.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Because you've got all those reeds. And I dare say if they went up the dry ones and the seed heads, they'd jump over, not a problem.
Yes, yeah.
Because heat rises and it lifts up.
Be
And
like little torches, those seafoods.
that's it, yeah. And then the other side of that coin, on the other side of the river, I actually haven't, because it's swampland, we wouldn't really go in there. So we'd wait for it, you know, you can see the bluff come
Accessibility
up.
would be,
Yeah, we'd wait on the other side for it to hit the bottom of the bluff,
yeah.
and that's where we'd make our attack. Because we don't automatically run out there and fight a fire, it's on our terms, we want to fight it. So sometimes it's best to do nothing and stand our ground where we want. For example, Point Smythe, we wouldn't really do anything until the second estate. Because there's no access into driveways, it's just no access anywhere, it's that thick in there.
Lisa's not here to hear that, is she?
Yeah, they don't like to hear it, yeah.
Yes, you
But
could also jump over the top of you too, I guess, and suddenly you could be in the middle of it.
that's it,
You're looking after yourself as opposed to...
that's,
What else
yeah.
you could
But
be
there's a
doing?
good fire break, it's well cut back, where the estate starts, you know, going out to Point Smythe or finishes. So we can stand our ground well there. So that's sort of how it would work, yeah. So, no, I just say that's my wife, I should have rang her before I come in. Yeah. Yeah. So has anyone got any questions or?
I've got the CFA tag next to my place. Is that an advantage?
It's just a filling point. So whereabouts are you in Second Estate,
Yeah.
Black Avenue?
Yeah, I'm sort of Fisherman's Road, but yeah.
Yeah. No, that's just a filling point. So if there was a big incident, there'd be what we call a big fill. It's a ute with a big pump on it, and the tankers, the fire trucks, will just be pulling in, filling up with water and leaving again. So
when Adam was in second estate, we actually had noticed perhaps the boatman's probably a good place to head for if we had to. You could literally drive your car into the water if you needed to, if you were about that spot. But you'd be there with probably 50 other people.
See, I can't say a place of last resort because that's what people want to hear.
I always thought go down there.
It's actually quite good because it's all asphalt.
Yeah.
You know, good bitumen road coming in, asphalt, large area, inlet on the other side. Yeah. The shops are another, not a bad one because everything's brick, and once again, a lot of asphalt, concrete.
They got ice cream.
Ice cream, yeah. So, and we do try and protect assets. Like we can't go around doing all the houses, but the actual shops would be an asset. But depending on what's going on at the time, to how many resources we've got to, you know, start putting tankers at places. So because the first initial when we go is the actual fire, and then we've got to do the size up, work out what we're going to do. But don't forget, we had a call out. Well, to explain air support, we've got all the like the big helicopter that went in the water, the Elvis and sky cranes, and then we've got the spotted planes. But we had a false alarm the other day with sea mist, and it really did look like smoke.
Yeah.
We got called out. Well, we had the spotted plane and the helicopter at Bear Gully before we got out there.
Wow.
And I was pretty impressed on that. And they were communicating with me. We were only, we probably nearly got to Walkerville or the hill going up. And we were in full communication with him. He was telling us that he's pretty sure it was sea mist and that. So the support
It was a
I've
funny
got
colour though.
is really good, you know. Yeah.
Yeah, watch the sky crane fly over the Dandenongs on its way east.
Yeah.
And that night in bed I had the radio on and heard it had gone in the drink.
Yeah.
Well, that's a pretty expensive thing, but at least the guys got out and got ashore okay.
Yeah. So, I think they're $8 million or something.
30.
30,
Yeah, that's what
that was it. Yeah.
what they said.
Wow.
Yeah, so give you an idea of the equipment we've got, but that's pretty rare for what happens to that. I'm not sure what happened. Yeah, because they're working at the pace they're working here all year round. You know, they're doing the fires in America.
Yeah, they go everywhere.
There's all sorts of, they just never stop. They just keep following the summers around.
Wow.
Yeah, and they do other things, I'm led to believe as well. Sky crane, I've seen documentaries where they're standing up big towers and all sorts of stuff. So,
Really?
Yeah.
Really?
Search that on YouTube.
Anyone else got any questions or have I not covered anything?
I think I've filled the lines up.
Sorry?
Filled the lines up.
Yeah.
Yes, a lot.
It's interesting, I mean, with the experiences that Victoria has had with fires, I'm actually surprised today how little I know, about fire plans and like.
Well, I'm quite shocked at how little people take it seriously too, because there's the ads on TV, there's really good campaigns. They refer you to the computers, big emergency and all that. Because I've had a few people at the open stations where they think that we should come to the house and let them know. Oh, there's a fire down the road.
And open up an area for them to, a safe area for them to.
And they think that the CFA should build a place of last resort. And I'm trying to tell them, look, all we look at is life and property.
That's right.
So as an emergency services, that's my goal, is life and property. It's the government that looks after everything, and everyone gets all that mixed up. You know, it all goes into one big basket. And,
People are getting better though. I mean, we did a...
It's a bit like cancer, it won't happen to me, isn't it?
Yeah.
It won't happen to me, disaster won't happen to me.
That was burnt to the ground in a bushfire in 1968.
So we ran a fire in Victoria at Venus Bay just before Chrissy, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And we had about 60 turn up.
Yeah, 57.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I always start off with, put your hand up if you think you're going to get a fire truck up your driveway. And we probably had about 40 people put their hand up. And then I say, how many fire trucks are here at Venus Bay? And they're like, oh, you know, it's one.
Just one.
Yeah, it's one. And there's 3 members, and they're all like, oh my God. So there, it's about that other conversation we had towards the end. If you want to protect your community, you need to be part of that protection.
Yeah.
Go and talk to your captain about being part of the CFA. And they were bowling at you, weren't they? Yeah, because it's a volunteer organisation. If you want the CFA to protect you, you need to be part of the CFA. So, yeah, it's a good organisation.
So did you pick up any extra members after that?
Yeah, we did. That actual meeting, it was 3. Yeah, so one that was active, because that's the ones that we want firefighters.
Yeah.
And then we've got 2 ladies that were to do awareness, but they call it brigade member. Yeah, so they don't go on the truck firefighting, but there's lots of roles that we can do in the station. Like tomorrow night, we've got open station at Walkerville. Now, Walkerville's got a really good community at the estate there. We everyone brings a plate, and then we take the tanker out and set the table up down the middle of the station so everyone can sit and communicate. Because no one knew who their neighbours were, no one knew anyone. Because some people are permanent, some are semi-permanent, some have just come down 6 weeks of the year. But now we've got it where everybody knows each other. They know, like elderly, you know, is there anyone keeping an eye on, you know, the elderly or what's going on. People that are going to stay and defend, I've sort of said to them, well, what are you going to do and stay and defend? And the bloke 2 doors up is, but they haven't communicated to each other. So it's better off if you team up. Because it's even better if they could stop the fire, for example, coming down and a couple more doors up before their house, instead of waiting for it to impact on their house, you know. So, but on the other side of the coin is, are they fit enough? You know, do you suffer from asthma or whatever? And I don't know if you ever noticed, but every time there's a big fire and you see the people on the roofs, and they've always, it really hits me, they've always got virtually the stubby shorts, the blueies still, the thongs, and they're out there with a little hose that's barely got water.
And holding the stuff as well.
If you look at a firefighter, we've got boots, we've got the yellow pants, and it's the protective clothing, and that's what I'm trying to push to everyone. You've got to have nice woolen, you've got to remember some clothes melt, wind shooters, and they'll just melt straight to your skin. So you've got to make sure you're wearing cotton or woolen blankets in your car and be prepared. Did you cover the car kit? Yeah. So, because it might be while you're fleeing that you get caught. Because spot fires, I think it was the 09 King Lake, all records were broken on how far they spot fire
I've got
can
friends who
go.
were in the fire and lost their house.
Yeah.
And they've got a holiday house at Sandy Point. Every hot day, the fella will go back home because he's just scared it's going to happen again.
Yeah, it doesn't want to experience it
No,
again.
no.
Yeah.
So he goes back, you know, 30 degrees, that city's in car and back to King Lake.
I've even had it, one of the meeting that Kate was talking about before, we had one gentleman there who said, I'm going to stay and defend and you're not going to make me go leave. And I said, that's fine. I said, because we won't come and see you, because we'll be doing the fire.
Yes, that's right.
But I said, the police might come round and advise you to evacuate, and if you say you're staying and defending, we're not going to come back and check on you. So you better have a plan.
Yes.
If you're going to be there on your own, who's going to check on you? Because it's only after the fire's gone through that we can, because we can't jump in front of a fire front. Because people think the truck's, you know, got 2,000 or 3,500 litres of water. But I've seen fires where it just evaporates, it's nothing. You can't, it's just that big. Even we have to get out of its way. So it's just asset protection then.
That's right.
Yeah. So.
But Mike, that brings up just a question. I know the system's changed, and what we used to do years back, we would actually sort of let the brigade know that Adam was leaving the area and so on, so that he's safe. I know your job is not to just come in and protect Adam, but would that be useful to you to at least know that he wasn't here, or?
Oh, it would be.
Or is that too much information we've got?
But the only problem is the only contact you've got is me.
Yep.
And I'd have to be on the job and running it.
That's what I'm coming from.
And you can't do it.
No, we wouldn't put it in the middle of something, but I mean, and we probably don't have it because we're now getting ourselves all organised, but it would be useful, I guess, for someone to know that, it's where I've got Adam Cope, he's not there.
You
don't want you to sort of coming in and just
see, I'd work in with that, you know. But I just haven't got the manpower to do what I'd like to do for the brigade and for the community. But until we get the recruitment up and people in, it's sort of.
So would maybe a text message be a good thing? Adam's gone.
Just and then it wouldn't be playing on my head, for example.
No, that he's not the only vulnerable person living in this town. I don't want to put everything on him. But at least you know that we can just go on with our job. And if the fire's from the approacher down here, we don't have to rush down and just check he's okay because we've got our plan in place. He's either not here or if he is here, we know what we're doing anyway. We've got that all organised.
That's it.
And you would know he's here potentially because you would get the message.
Yeah, I'd just assume that he was here.
Yeah,
you know.
Sure.
So I'm hoping that he's there.
Yeah,
you know.
Okay. Thank you, Vic.
Yeah. Yeah. That's about me done. I can't think of anything off the top of my head just yet.
Thanks, mate.
We do have some. There's a time for us to gradually switch from lunch out and just while I'm assuming you're probably winding down.
We're wound.
All right, we do have some lunch. So what if we just put that out now and just continue the conversation? Would that be okay?
Yeah, that's
and we can
fine.
sort of all pick that up. But before we do that, can I just jump in? I'll just come across before we're doing that. Now you're all packing up there, Kate. On the camera. Flip around, but I've got the camera over there. We have got a little presents to give you guys. We do appreciate you coming and thank you for your time.
Thank you for inviting us.
And Mick, we've actually talked about that. We'll look at a donation to the brigades. I'll have a chat to you about that later on. We'll get it out. We know your time is precious and we understand the importance of finances and so on. So, whilst Adam would love to be a member of the fire brigade, he's probably going to contribute to it in that way and know that he's put his deal in. You okay with that, Adam? Yep. Yeah. Cool. Yeah, and thank you for coming. So, we'll just continue the conversation, that's all right, and people can chat, eat, have lunch,
Help yourselves
and so on. We'll off for lunch, and you're not allowed to leave without having some refreshment.
That's it.
Thanks.
Thank you very much.
Tea or coffee or glass of water or...
No, thanks.
I might have some more water. I think that's my glass.
Oh, is it?